in song, there are a few reminders. If you are visiting us for the first time today, you are especially welcome. The visitors table by the door can help you get oriented if you have any questions. If you have little ones, our greeters can show you the way to the nursery, which is available during the service for children ages 6 years and younger. Our services are filmed and posted on YouTube. If you want to make sure that you are not on camera, please sit in the perfume-free zone or in the section closest to the back table and the library. Feel free to move during the prelude if you need to. Please silence your cell phones. In fact, I'll take a second. Silence them. We good? I think we're good. Okay. Today's opening hymn is It Is Well With My Soul, which was requested by our guest speaker. And though it is not in either the teal or the gray hymnal, the words will be provided on the screens. Please rise in spirit or body as you are comfortable. This morning, our call to worship is a poem by Emily Dickinson. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home, with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplice. I just wear my wings, and instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches a notey clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I am going all along. Welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Erin, my pronouns are she and her, and I serve this church as a member of your Religious Services Committee. If you are with us on the internet, or if you're with us sitting in the chairs around me, we are one community, united in our commitment to each other and our commitment to live out our principles in the world. Today, we are pleased to host guest speaker Davis Shoulders, a local independent bookseller and editor of an anthology of essays that center around the topic of queerness and faith in the context of Appalachia. With this collection, Davis seeks to call into question the limiting narratives of what counts as spirituality and who is worthy enough to receive the benefit of a spiritual community. Here at HVUUC, we certainly believe that everyone is worthy of spiritual community, and one of our favorite reminders of our connection to one another and to our greater community is the lighting of our chalice. Today, we are going to invite Kaylee to come help us with our chalice lighting. Kaylee is a 10th grade student at Science Hill. She enjoys theater and voice acting, and as Kaylee lights the chalice, please join me in saying our vision statement, which is printed in the bulletin. We work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder. We welcome you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1,000th Sunday with us, we are stronger because of your presence. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, and all loved. Just as you are welcome.
Hello. Hello, you gorgeous souls. Hello. So today's service centers on queer communion, remembering that spirituality does not live only in words, rules, or buildings, but in our bodies, our stories, and our lived experience. It invites us to gently question the identities others have placed upon us, the ones we have carried ourselves, and to ask what still belongs, and what might we lovingly release. In Unitarian Universalism, we know there are many ways to encounter truth, through reason, through story, through relationship, and also through the wisdom of our bodies. Our bodies hold memory, they hold joy, they hold identities shaped by family, culture, community, some that have helped us grow, and some that have felt very heavy and very limiting. For our time for all ages today, I'd like to invite us into a short, gentle, somatic practice, not to fix anything, but to notice and to release. To come back into ourselves with kindness and curiosity. This is an invitation, not a requirement. Okay, you are welcome to participate in whatever way feels safe and supportive for you, standing, sitting, moving a little, moving a lot, okay, or simply listening. If at any point you'd rather rest, that's perfect. If you feel called to wiggle or sway, breathe deeply. And this goes for the kids too. It's perfect. There is no right way to do this. There is your way to do this. Communion at its heart does not ask us to become someone else. It asks us to come home to ourselves just as we are. And so, with care for our bodies, compassion for our stories, and room for release, let's begin. Please rise in body or spirit, however you feel called. I'm going to stand. All right, take a moment. Did y'all want to rise too? No. Okay. They rise in spirit. So take a moment to arrive right where you are. Okay? We are all living, breathing beings, and so much of our wisdom lives in our bodies. Sometimes we spend a lot of time in our heads, thinking, listening, learning, and this is a chance to gently come back in home to ourselves. So if it feels comfortable, place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and rub in the opposite directions. Just kidding. You might sway a little, or you might be very still. There is no right way. Just notice what your body needs. Take a slow, deep breath in, and a long, easy breath out. Again, inhale and exhale. Now imagine yourself standing in front of a doorway. Now this doorway is filled with color, warmth, and possibility. When you're ready, imagine stepping through that door. You find yourself in a place from your childhood. Now, this might feel joyful. It might feel complicated. It might feel calm or uncertain or a little of everything. There's no need to judge what comes up. Just notice what your body remembers. Imagine yourself as your younger self, just as you were. Think about the places where you felt welcome and the places where you didn't. Think about the labels that may have been placed on you. Too quiet, too loud, too much, not enough. Shy, brave, different, invisible. What are some labels that are coming up from you? Shout them out, even if you've already heard them. What are some labels that are coming up for you in this moment?
Too talkative.
Too talkative.
Weird.
Yes. There's one too. Thank you for sharing these. Thank you. Now imagine those labels as little sticky notes. They're gently resting on your body. Some may have helped you grow. And in fact, I am a firm believer for my own self that all have helped me grow in some way or another. And they may have also felt very heavy and limiting at times. Notice how it feels to carry those sticky notes. Notice where those sticky notes are set. And now we're going to invite our bodies to release what sticky notes no longer serve us. We'll do this with gentle tapping. Tapping is an ancient Qigong technique used to wake up the body and invite energy flow. So if you like, begin by lightly tapping your arms, the tops of your arms. You can even start with one. I know for me, sometimes two is a little bit much at a time. So the tops of your arms, then down the sides. You can tap slowly, you can tap quickly. Feel into your body, feel what it's needing. And as you tap, imagine loosening any labels that feel heavy. Anything that says you must be only one thing. Anything that keeps you from being your full self. You might tap your arms, your legs, your sides, your back, wherever feels supportive for you. Let your body wake up. Let it feel alive. Where do you need to tap it off? Now pause. Notice any tingling, any warmth, any shift in the body. How does it feel to remember that you are allowed to be many things? Anything, in fact. Quiet sometimes, loud sometimes, soft, strong, curious, brave. You're not one label, you are a whole living story. Take one more deep breath in. And now let it all go. When you're ready, gently return your attention to this space, bringing with you whatever feels lighter, freer, and more spacious. May what you release today make room for more of who you truly are, whole, worthy, and belonging. Love and light.
Well, I wake up in the morning, brush brush my teeth and go to work. Paydays, Friday, Sunday, I go to church. I try my best to be myself and not hurt anyone. And they call me public enemy number one. Number one, I'm responsible for the fall of civilization. Number one, the root of all evil and double-digit inflation. Well, I get so tired of fighting, sometimes it's hard to stay alive. But this so-called public enemy will survive. Self-appointed experts tell me exactly who I should be, who I love, and even where I be. They don't know nothing about nothing and fear everything unknown. And they call me public enemy number one. Number one, I'm responsible for the fall of civilization. Number one, the root of all evil and double-digit inflation. Well, I get so tired of fighting, sometimes it's hard to stay alive. But this so-called public enemy will survive. They kidnap people off the streets and murder them in boats. Rich men violate the young and gloat. Psychopathic children sit on their golden thrones. But they call me public enemy number one. Number one, I'm responsible for the fall of civilization. Number one, the root of all evil and double-digit inflation. Well, I get so tired of fighting, sometimes it's hard to stay alive. But this so-called public enemy will survive and thrive. This so-called public enemy will survive.
Come to this community with all that you are. Your joys and your concerns are welcome here. We share our moments of joys and sorrows with us through using these candle cards. If I can grab it, there we go. If you are with us in person, or by emailing Reverend Tiffany at minister@hvuuc.org with the words candle card in the subject line. Please make sure to indicate whether or not you would like the card read aloud in the service, which is being broadcast publicly on YouTube. The process of lighting a candle will not show any individuals on the YouTube video. This morning, we light a candle of concern from Joseph, who requests prayers for his good friend and neighbor, Pat and Deb, whose son Daniel passed away on Sunday, January 4th, with family by his side. We also received a card of joy from Sophia. It says, "My patient got their Make-A-Wish granted, and I was able to accompany the family to Florida to see Disney and Universal. It was an honor to be able to serve the family this way and to see them all so happy." That's wonderful. If you wish to light your own silent candle, please approach the side of the table that is closest to you, and the closer candle keepers will assist you. This is also the time that kids can put money for the kids' collection plates. It's in a little basket. The children voted on what cause they would like to support, and they voted to give money to alleviate hunger in the Tri-Cities. Please light the candles at the back of the table first so that no one has to reach over and open flame. And if you wish for us to light a candle for you, please raise your hand until I acknowledge you, and I will ensure a candle is lit for your intention. Our community is so much larger than just those of us who are in the building this morning, so we light a candle to hold space for those who are not physically present with us, but are ever in our hearts. for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and minds. Jones explores what it's like to return to an unfriendly place of worship in her article, A Queer Christian's Defiant Worship in an Anti-LGBTQ+ Church. She writes, I recently visited my old evangelical church for the second time since I left during COVID. I had last been there in May 2022. That time, I felt so uncomfortable and out of place, my skin crawled, and I couldn't wait to get out of the building. I only went back because they were having a special event showcasing the different cultures in the church, a mosaic of cultures. I love this sort of thing, and my mother-in-law wanted us there. We sang songs about God's love for us and our love for God. And I stood up and I sang and I worshiped because I love God and I believe that God loves me. I left this church because I realized that I am queer and this church's homophobia is entrenched. I no longer felt at home there when they believed that there is something fundamentally sinful about who I am. Even though they don't know that I'm queer, I could not be comfortable there. I could not imagine coming out there. Standing in the service this Sunday, I still could not forget that most, if not all, of the people around me would condemn me if they knew. They would see me as someone to fix at best, or an enemy at the worst. I felt like a spy, like an undercover operative. But I worshiped anyway. I decided that it doesn't matter to me what any of them think about me. I do not go to church for the other people there. I go for myself and to worship my God. And I believe that my God does not condemn me. It felt like a defiant act, I have to admit, worshiping God despite those around me who think people like me have no right to do so. Perhaps some Christians would find that defiance even more unchristian of me, but I don't see it that way. I do not owe respect to Christians, but to God. I refuse to allow homophobic Christians to scare me away. I am a Christian no matter what they think. I love Jesus and I will worship anyway. After the service, we gathered in the gym for the cultural experience. We ate food from Nigeria, Uganda, South Africa, the Philippines, China, and others. The Filipino delegation did a traditional dance. China's booth had someone dressed in a panda costume that I couldn't stop giggling at because it looked like a furry. Every booth had traditional clothing and art on display and for sale. It was a wonderful celebration of difference. I was reminded that people are complex. While the majority of those in the church building that day, at the very least, disapprove of LGBTQ+ identities, they embrace and celebrate people of other cultures and ethnicities. I dream of a day when this church would host a pride event in the same way. In the meantime, I worship anyway.
I worship anyway. I worship anyway. I had to pull up my essay because I wasn't going to read from it, but I say I sing anyway. I worship anyway, I sing anyway. It's such an honor to be with you all today. to be present with you all. I guess I'm still filtering in that reading and the resonance and the evangelical childhood and the homophobic childhood. But, I don't always experience church in a building like this. I did a lot in my childhood, but it's not like this. And being back in the halls of a church in a place centered about adoration and worship and community, it's just so euphoric to relish that full embodiment of convening and the act of lighting the candles in beautiful spaces with beautiful people. And even though you may not know me all that well, we can easily find a sense of communion, and through that portal move on to deeper forms of spiritual intimacy, to make haste, as it were, to slow down together. Now, my task today is to talk about queer communion. This most recent national tragedy we've witnessed over the past few weeks has offered up a sort of living scripture that I'd like to examine on our journey towards this concept of queer communion. On January 8th, a video was posted on social media of a woman boldly speaking to a long line of ICE agents somewhere in Minneapolis. She starts off imploring, "You don't have to do this. Everybody has to follow their own conscience. Everyone has to do what is right in front of their God, in front of their soul, in front of themselves. That's what you have to do." We consumed a lot about this moment, but that was the moment, hearing that woman say that phrase, to invoke God in that moment, did something to me. Everyone has to do what is right in front of their God, in front of their soul, in front of themselves. Between your soul and your God. That space for me between my soul and my God hasn't always felt comfortable to occupy. I was raised a preacher's kid in the Churches of Christ. Southern, evangelical, fundamentalist, check. I could give you the whole spiritual trauma Olympics spreadsheet, but suffice to say, we were a strict bunch. No instruments in worship, no women leadership, full immersion baptism or bust, Bible-thumping followers down to the King James Version iota of the law. God was everything, or Jesus. I couldn't always keep track of which part of the Trinity I was supposed to be most focused on at the time. But that space in front of my God, in front of my soul, it was a space filled with fear and punishment. Behaving was paramount. Authority was unquestionable. The posture of my body in church felt like as stiff as a board. Oh, and did I mention in our church, dancing was a sin too, which nowadays you could call me the number one sinner in that category. You always had to be on your toes, always on the lookout for the devil lurking around the corner. My parents wouldn't let us go swimming with kids of the opposite sex, so if a school was ever having a swim day, I'd have to come with some sort of spiritual doctor's nose excuse. I wasn't allowed to date outside of the church, which meant only within the Churches of Christ, so I just didn't date. And when it came to time to go to college, my dad had a joke he'd like to say in the pulpit from time to time. I tell my kids, you can go anywhere you want, but I'm only sending money to one place. So, of course, I ended up at a Christian college, with as many, if not more, rules than my home. And those few details don't even scratch the surface on the sheltered and limited world of my childhood, but at the time it was the only life I knew. I believed in God because my survival depended on me doing so. I was baptized at 13 because everyone else my age had already done it, and I thought it was time. I knew enough about sin, hell, and damnation to be fearful enough to get dunked, just in case. To call back that sentiment of that woman's words in front of the ICE agents, the space between my soul and my God was incredibly small, but not in this cozy, intimate way. It was much more like a prison cell. When I tell people how I was raised, and then they compare that to the person I've become, publishing an essay collection such as this, people like to ask, how did you get out? And my answer to that is, I don't really know how I got out. I don't know why I waited so long to rebel. I don't know why I read so voraciously and decided to become an English major and use academia as a way to think freely. I don't know why I moved to DC for grad school and immediately became an activist and leftist. I don't know why before I fully stopped going to church I had imaginations of starting a monastic community because technically my church was non-denominational and you could do whatever you wanted. I don't know why I didn't fall into the trope of a wild preacher's kid, only to discover some people are wild early and some bloom later into their wildness. I don't know why no other Christian church has attracted my interest or collected me. I didn't know that when I left, I'd be gone for good. I don't know why I had such a hard time leaving people I loved in the church behind, even when I knew my theology didn't fit anymore. I don't know why I saw myself as an ally to the queer community, especially those closeted at my college, years before I would articulate it for myself. I don't know why I moved back home after spending a year in an RV with my hippie friends. I don't know why I worked so hard to explain to my dad my newfound beliefs, or to him the lack thereof. I don't know why singing hymns, like the one that we sung today at the beginning of the service, my favorite hymn, by the way, still gives a balm to my soul, even if the theology is outdated in one way or another. And how I'm often sad that I can't sing with the folks in the church that I grew up with. My essay in Queer Communion is about my love of singing specifically. One of those rules that the Church of Christ has incidentally became a beautiful saving grace, the a cappella singing. Don't get me wrong, I've been a percussionist, pianist, and I'm now picking up guitar. I love instrumental music. But the resonance of 4-part harmonies, old hymns, again, no matter about the theology, it just does something. It's the sacred Om to me. The original sound breathed out by God and echoed by humans. The sacred chord that pleased the Lord, sharing in a vibrational space, that singing space that makes the space between my soul and my God feel lighter. But if I went back to those churches where, in my opinion, the best singing is happening, they would not accept the person I've become. There's a theme of looking back in the essays in Queer Communion, looking longingly back for the love from family members, most especially mamas. I got a whole section on mamas, who loved us in a way, but maybe didn't love the gay part of us. Looking back at the pageantry that queer people are so good at in church, the singing, the performance, the ritual and wardrobes of high church culture or whatnot, we aren't doing so in denial of our rights and freedom and the safety we now hold in community and found family, but the fact that we can even reflect on it, that we have survived to tell the tale, to reflect on what is the church-shaped hole or the family-shaped hole that was the aftermath of our exile from those younger versions of ourselves. Because no matter how far we go in life, we are always connected to who we were then. Our youngest selves are our oldest selves. Connected to where the cracks let the light in, to the wounds that taught us how to heal, to the darkness that we converted into light. Because I'll let you know this, all queer folks are alchemists, by the way. We are all alchemists. We do not reach this point without having been that child once. That confused, angry, self-shaming, exploratory spirit that got crushed over and over, trying to follow all the rules just right, until something was finally released and broke open, and we surrendered to the self, to the becoming that let us breathe. Breathing in the space between your soul and your God. As a queer person asking about this space between the self that I've come to discover, this constant evolution of identity, who is my God? God certainly has evolved with me. It is clear to me that I am not worshiping the same God I did in childhood when I was singing those old hymns, but I am still worshiping, and yet in another way. Was the definition of God I was given as a child even true? Was there a queer God hidden from me just as much as queer folks were? Today I often refer to myself as a mystic. And in my studies as a mystic, there are theories of what the world was like in its more matriarchal Earth Mother days. Before history was written by warmongers and capitalists, before civilization became simply an act of colonization, before fights over who could store up bigger barns was a justified excuse to kill others. Sound familiar? We may not have the type of data that proves without a shadow of a doubt what that ancient time period was like when all the old growth forests were still intact, when perhaps God walked in the garden with us in the garden of the earth. But I know we had mythology. I know we had a way to explain why we were here, what the stars meant to us, where we came from. And it's from that space today that I believe queer spirituality emerges, older than the Bible. Queerness, not limited by simply an expression of gender and sexuality, but as an orientation to an evolving world. a world focused on the goodness of pleasure, the stewardship of nature, on being in an intimate relationship with your God, a trusting and learning and growing one. That we were given a body as a temple of expression, not to hide our light under a bushel, not to keep ourselves pristine and safe, but to use our somatic system to listen to its cues, to express worship in all the wild ways that we love, to lean into the fullest of ourselves and our soul, between your soul and your God. There's something else in what that woman said to the ICE agents. Yes, we all have to decide. Yes, we have to follow our conscience. But notice how she said, your God. The way God was talked about to me growing up, it was one God, one clear definition of a big daddy God in the sky, reigning rules and dominion over us. No, this woman didn't say the Almighty God, Prince of Peace, Lord of Lords, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jehovah, King of Kings, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty Savior, Omniscient, Omnipotent, Creator of the universe, Judeo-Christian God. No, she said, your God. Giving this open, gracious space to people who are in an act of making other people's worlds smaller, if not non-existent. He brings expansion and bigness to a moment to people who are scared, who hate themselves enough to become a violent agent of the state for the money or whatever political gymnastics their brain is doing. But even more, implicit in this expression is the question, who is your God? The permission to choose one's God and to be accountable to that choosing. Not to tell you which God and make sure it's a white man in a toga on a throne in the sky that imitates the kings throughout our patriarchal history. No, your God. Who is your God? Tell me. Explore and decide for yourself. The grace of that statement alone seems more than that line of 100 officers could muster in one pinky. She still believed, however rhetorically it was presented, that they must have some God, some reasoning for their behavior, and that God might not approve of what their soul was enacting on this plane. And that grace was something that it took so long for me to learn to extend to myself. If someone in my childhood had ever genuinely offered me the question, who is your God? Not as a challenge, not as an assumption or test, or what my answer would be, not having me fill in with some VBS song. If it was asked in such a way, then my God could take the shape and container of my queer soul. And when two or more queers are gathered in the name of their God, there may be two or three or an infinity of gods among them. And this, to me, this gets at the heart of the concept of queer communion. This collection is focused on Appalachia, and yes, this region is so holy and deep within my bones and has such a sacred spiritual resonance to it. But it could happen anywhere. When free and fully self-identified people come together, holding their greatest joy aloft, their highest brilliance, and deep meditation of their own karmic soul, their own relationship to the forces of the cosmos beyond our comprehension, when we bring our unmasked, queer, messy selves in communion with each other, those queer gods dance. They dance with each other as we dance with each other. Those spirits sing when we sing together. When we bring peace and knowing and seeing together, whether in a crowded room in a big city or a quiet morning by a river path, that human-to-human transmission, the play of our mythologies with each other, that is when the space between in our soul and our God is the most vibrant. And it's sad to me when I see people who can't access their wonder and curiosity in the world. They choose to limit their belief of the supernatural, the world of spiritual wonder and healing and medicine we live in and day out, without the beauty of this knowing. The secret shared between queer folks, open hands toward difference, of us each playing a part of the larger body of the collective consciousness, all knit in an ecosystem of balance and love. But if anything, as that woman stood before those ICE agents, I could envision myself standing before my childhood church community, before the people who raised me. I can see that through their atrocious treatment of me and others like me, that I learned my fervor there, my zeal for a God. I was given a definition of God that I've been molding and growing and molding and growing and adding spice and adding queerness and hardship and life and building all this up to put God in the best drag possible, to give her a new life as I express my own queerness. And if I could follow that spark, if I could get out, that means that spark is present anywhere. Anyone can see that light. If we open that space within ourselves between our definition of ourself and our soul and the definition of our God, and we apply queer theology, we see a spectrum. We see an embodiment. We see the erotics of our relationship to the higher realms that reach down and touch this world. That is the ultimate queer communion between ourselves and our God, and we are all on the journey of that discovery. So let us commune together. Go on your journeys, and when we convene in spaces like this, share your notes. Share the character and the description and the flavor of your God. See what mosaic we build, what wonders exist between your soul and your God. My soul is queer and my God is queer. How about yours?
We thank you for being with us today. We have a couple of short announcements, and then I'll invite Alesha up for a moment to talk about the risk discernment workshop. First of all, there is no potluck today. I believe it says that in the bulletin, but there is no potluck today. This month's Wednesday night supper is on January 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. Pricing is paid in cash, $8 per person, $15 for two, and $5 for kids. Vegetarian options are always available. The sign-up deadline is January 25th at noon, so be sure to sign up by then so that they know how many to shop for. Our Spring Path to Membership class is coming up. If you are interested in becoming a member here at HVUUC, or if you're just interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism and how our church is governed, be sure to join us after church on February 8th from 1:15 to 4:15. Attending the class does not commit you to membership, but it is a precursor for joining. Our youth group will be hosting a baked potato bowl fundraiser before the risk discernment workshop with a self-service toppings bar, and they need your help determining the best toppings. There is a survey to fill out on the events section of the website, so be sure to fill it out with the toppings that you'd like on your potatoes. Alesha?
Hello, good morning. I'm Alesha, and I'm honored to serve this church as your programs trustee. I have a very short story, an anecdote. UU that I know in Knoxville said in a workshop one time that he was present at the Tennessee Valley UU Church when they had a tragic active shooter situation back in 2008. He said that something about this incident developed his relationship with risk, and it really stuck with me. His words were, "You have to learn to be prepared for anything, but you also can't live every day paralyzed by fear." After this happened, his church and his statewide UU colleagues and the UUA as a whole all responded with so much compassion and love for that community that it gave way to the creation of a group you might have heard of called Side with Love. Side with Love since then has done a lot of amazing things to help us live out our UU values. And one of those things is creating useful tools that we can apply when we need to, such as the workshop that he was in when he told that story. So that workshop is about risk discernment. It's a template that can be used in any community in order to scientifically identify and analyze our relationships with risk. That way we can figure out what risks are important for us to avoid, but also what challenges that we're able to take on. It helps participants reflect on their own tolerance or aversion to risk, but it also encourages us to take stock of our congregation's feelings on that as well. It is not meant to necessarily tell you that you have to be more or less comfortable with taking risks, but rather to help you form a realistic idea of where your community stands and how to meet that community where it's at, and to help us all live out our beliefs effectively together. It is a lesson in cost-benefit pragmatism so that you can practice not overextending yourself, but also not giving up. Myself and a few others have been planning a day to facilitate this workshop here at our church with our values, our specific histories that we've all lived through, our experiences. To get the best possible sense of what our church wants and needs, we need the largest sample size we can get. So we're calling on all of you to join us next week. Our regular Sunday service, Reverend Tiffany will be speaking to us about the general idea of risk discernment. And then after the church, from 1 to 3, we'll be hosting the workshop. And fear not for your lunch. As Aaron said, there's a potato bar, a baked potato bar that sounds like that'll be great. If you are going to attend, there's a sign-up sheet on the back table back there that would help us know to expect you. And it's really important to me, and I hope I can assume for many of the rest of you, to have these kind of opportunities to get to know my congregation better and really do a vibe check on how we all feel about approaching these important issues together, because we're in a time of a lot of important issues. So thank you, and I hope to see you next week.
What do you all think of the service today? Was it good? Amazing? We have amazing services here at this church because we also have an amazing minister. And how do we pay our minister? You do. We all do. And so we have programs, we have all sorts of things that are paid by your donation to this church. Now, putting money in the plate really doesn't help us because we have to have an amount of money that we know we're going to make in 26, 27 to pay for all of our bills. And so you can be as generous as you want to the plate, but guess what? We get to spend that money next year when we have an over amount from our pledge drive. If you pledge an amount, we can schedule that money to pay for things, add new things. One of the things I asked all of our members of our committees here is, give me your dreams. What else can we afford here? Give me your dreams. I want you to help fund those dreams for these committees here because they're going to involve you all and it's all going to make things better. So please, please consider it. We'll have other people talk about the pledge drive coming up. We're just in the process of developing the budget, and we'll hear about that some more. Thank you very much.
You can learn more about the many opportunities for fellowship, justice work, and working together by visiting our website, hvuuc.org, and checking out the news and events section. Today's closing music is once again by Wendy Hurl and the Chaos Crew, some of the Chaos Crew anyway, which includes me. And this is also when we will pass the offering plate. The contributions that you make to us during the offering supports the way that Greg just talked about all of that. You guys know, make your pledges. And here we go.
Standing in the dejection section line, remembering days when I felt so fine. Head in sand, didn't understand demolition crews in the promised land. Watching the news, the shadows ooze, feels so hard to breathe. Want to lift this paw, stand up tall, and wear it on my sleeve. Wish I could write us an anthem, a tune to help us believe again. Wish I could write us an anthem, 'cause we need to raise our voices now and then. You got to live, you got to love, and there ain't no help coming from above. But you can't beg, 'cause you got no say. You throw your hands up and give it all away. What you might find when you look behind, companions all around. If we had a song, we might feel strong enough to stand our ground. Wish I could write us an anthem, a tune to help us believe again. Wish I could write us an anthem, 'cause we need to raise our voices now and then. Ain't got no corporate sponsor or an organizational card, but I got a guitar and I got a voice and I want to do my part. My part. Wish I could write us in.
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 An anthem.
Anthem,
An anthem.
anthem,
Anthem.
anthem,
Anthem.
anthem,
Wish I could write us an anthem.
anthem.
A tune to help us believe again. Wish I could write us an anthem.
Anthem,
'Cause we need to raise our voices now and then.
Today's benediction is by Maureen Killeran. No matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected. Each day, act so that you may be a little more whole. Amen, blessed be, and go in peace.
Yay, church!